good morning, everyone. And welcome to the Girls Inc. of Long Island annual virtual breakfast presented by KPMG. This year, we celebrate making it through the year that was 2020. And our theme is resilience of the girl. We think that theme is as relevant as we can get. And I want to start by thanking you so much for joining us today. I'd like to give a special thanks to our distinguished panelists, Dr. Damary, Bonilla-Rodriguez, Director, Leaders of Color New York at Education Reform Now, Dr. Rhonda Taylor, Acting Superintendent of Schools for the Uniondale Union Free School District, Dr. Cyrina Bullard, founder of Catch Happiness, and Loren Hunt, Girls Inc. Girl of Westbury High School and the 2020 Girls Inc. Scholarship recipient. And thank you to our honoree, Dr. Maury McInnis, president of Stony Brook University, who you will hear from in just a few minutes. Thank you to all of our sponsors, for without your support, the work we do wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much to our amazing exclusive presenting sponsor, KPMG. Thank you so much to Stony Brook University, People's United Bank, Hallam Construction, National Grid, PSEG, EY, Investors Bank, Ruskin Moscow Faltashek, New York Community Bank, Daniel Gale of Manhasset, and Cox Media Group. Also, thanks so much to our breakfast committee, our wonderful committee to help us putting this together, and our diligent co-chairs, Patty Hoffman and Linda Birkland, for your hard work in helping us to put this breakfast together. Thank you to our dedicated board of directors, our incredible staff, donors, volunteers, and all who help to move the mission forward in inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. It is no secret that this past year has been difficult on all of us. But we've seen from our girls, our community, our supporters, what we've seen from everybody is resilience. We've made it through. And what very well may have been the most trying year in our lifetime. Girls Inc. of Long Island has been there, steady and strong, continuing our mission. We stand for girls, we stand for rights, we stand for equity, and we stand for justice. And we look forward to the upcoming stimulating conversation about how girls can use their unique power, all the ways they are strong, smart, and bold to overcome any barrier and truly be resistant.
Growing up, my mom's siblings and I faced more than our fair share of adversity, but I believed in a future beyond what others saw. When it came time for college, the KPMG Future Leaders Program was there to help. It was more than a scholarship. It was 4 years of support, mentorship, and training. Now I'm my family's first college graduate, and I'm just getting started.
The KPMG Future Leaders Program, empowering young women to reach their potential since 2016.
Did you all hear me say resistant? That was supposed to be resilient. Thank you so much again to KPMG. At this time, it is my pleasure to welcome Stony Brook University President, Dr. Maury McInnis. Stony Brook University has been a leader in the fight against COVID-19 on Long Island. And at an almost unimaginable time, they appointed a new president, Dr. Maury McInnis, became the leader of one of the largest and most prestigious institutions in the middle of the pandemic. And in her role, she showed all the ways that she is strong, smart, and bold, and incredibly resilient. Her leadership has been an inspiration to all of us at Girls Inc. of Long Island, to our girls, and to the Long Island community as a whole. We are so pleased to be able to honor her this morning and couldn't think of anyone who better represented our theme for this event. Please join me in welcoming Stony Brook University's President, Dr. Maury McInnis.
Well, thank you so much for this honor, and it is a privilege to be here today with Girls Inc. I started my tenure as president of Stony Brook in the summer of 2020. And I had heard so much about the university's sense of community, the caring, supportive connection between this institution and all of our neighbors on Long Island. But at the height of the pandemic, it was obviously difficult to meet my new colleagues and community in person, to get to know our students and to forge the close relationships in the way I had hoped. Despite my disappointment at not being able to join together in person, my belief in community has only strengthened. While our researchers and healthcare staff worked tirelessly to understand COVID-19 and treat patients, our students and faculty adjusted to new learning modes and organized for change. Long Island residents supported our students in record numbers and volunteered their extensive resources and time to collaborate with the university and the hospital to help make everything from masks to hand sanitizer. And I couldn't be prouder of this collective accountability and strength. While a sense of isolation has impacted many in our community, ironically, moments of privacy, peace, and solitude have been rare. The pressures and collective duties of the pandemic have weighed especially hard on girls and women who often occupy many different professional, social, and familial roles at the same time. And so it speaks to the resilience of those women and girls in our community that they have been integral in guiding us through this time. In our university network, I have seen many young women who have suffered losses and hardships due to the pandemic, but who have used these experiences as motivation to make needed changes in their community, to seize opportunities, and to hone their values. In a period of overwhelming challenges, they have found reasons to learn, grow, and build anew. And to me, that is resilience. The work of Girls Inc. is crucial right now. As individuals are vaccinated, as groups can slowly begin to gather in person, and as we begin to move forward as a society, we must remember the inspiring strength that women and girls have shown in this time, despite countless pressures. We must realize that now more than ever, our young women need their space to learn who they are as individuals, ask questions, analyze, discover, dream, and think. I believe Stony Brook and Long Island can cultivate this for generations to come, a supportive place for girls to actualize their immense potential. If we can do this, I have no doubt that we will build a brighter, bolder, healthier future for all. Thank you, and I'm grateful for this honor and to be able to be here with you today.
Welcome, everyone. We are so thankful to have you here with us this morning virtually and looking forward to this important discussion. 2020 brought what may have been the most trying year of our lifetime. The impact was far-reaching, and yet inequalities became more debilitating and impossible to ignore. Our girls were directly impacted by the challenges of 2020, but because of their resilience, they are not only surviving, they are thriving. As you know, a Girls Inc. girl is not just strong, smart, and bold, she is resilient. That is why this year, we are choosing to highlight relentless leaders who have faced opposition but persevered at our Girls Inc. of Long Island breakfast. Women leaders that have given our communities hope, that have driven innovation despite the surmounting challenges, leaders like the esteemed panelists we have before you. It is now my honor to introduce the panelists of the 2021 Girls Inc. of Long Island Resilience of the Girl Breakfast. Introducing Dr. Damary Bonilla-Rodriguez. Dr. Damary is a national leading authority on leadership development, especially as it pertains to diversity and inclusion. She delivers keynote addresses and presentations drawing upon her experience from roles in the nonprofit, private, and government sectors, as well as her doctoral research. Her research about Latina leadership in the United States has served as a foundation for events, conference sessions, publications, and content development to address the urgency of leadership development for a fast-growing population and create a pipeline of diverse leaders. Introducing Ms. Rhonda Taylor. Rhonda Taylor is currently serving as the acting superintendent of schools in the Uniondale School District on Long Island. Mrs. Taylor is a resourceful leader who has worked tirelessly throughout her career to provide meaningful educational opportunities for the next generation of scholars, partnering with all constituencies to support and improve instructional programs and the social, emotional development of scholars in underprivileged communities. Introducing Dr. Cyrina Bullard. Dr. Cyrina is an Amazon best-selling author with her book, C3, Creating Conscious Connections. In her book, she shares how she had almost died 3 times, the daunting challenges she's overcome, and the lessons learned along the way. She has created a unique blend of science-based and motivational tools that she shares through workshops and keynotes, which support others to be resilient and catch happiness. Cyrina focuses on techniques to improve resilience, mindset, and encouraging people to live a life of design, not one of default. And last but certainly not least, introducing Loren Hunt. Loren Hunt is a graduating senior from Westbury High School of the class of 2021 and has been part of Girls Inc. since 10th grade. As a Black woman interested in the STEM field, she immerses herself in programs that empower minority groups and strives to make an impact in her community. In the top 10 of her graduating class, she has always fought to do her best in rigorous academics and is passionate about instilling the value of education in young people. Recently, Loren was recognized as a distinguished honoree by New York State Senator Anna Kaplan and received the Trailblazer Award for her advocacy efforts. She hopes to continue studying her passion for computer science during college, and her goal is to bridge the gap between the sciences and politics with the theme of activism. She would like to create a safe space for people to voice their opinions on social injustice, acknowledge our differences, and empower each other to impact the world in ways we did not think were possible. So with that being said, welcome to all of our amazing panelists. And just a moment of housekeeping, there is a chat box open at the bottom of your screen. I see people already using it, so thank you so much. Feel free to share your comments, thoughts, and even ask questions as we continue this discussion. We'll have time later to answer a few questions during our open Q&A. So now, without further ado, let's dive right in. Resilience is commonly defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness, right? Psychologists further define resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. I believe personally that our experiences shape our unique perspectives of resilience. So to unpack this further, I now invite our panelists to share their own views. Starting with Rhonda, can you please share your unique understanding of resilience and how you may have experienced it throughout your life?
Absolutely. First, allow me to say thank you to Girls Inc. for having me as one of the panelists among these esteemed women who are here, and welcome to the amazing and beautiful girls of Girls Inc. This is a topic that I'm going to absolutely enjoy talking about because resilience, that's what I do. And so for me, it's a very, very, very small, short definition, but I think very powerful. It's the ability to come out on the other side of a challenge better than when you first entered it. So you're not resilient unless you've learned a lesson. You're not resilient unless you're saying, I beat that, right? And so for me, I have had occasions to pull deep inside and demonstrate my resilience. This is something that's very private. I'm a very private person. I don't really share these things very often. This is the first time I'm sharing this privately, but 13 years ago, I did lose a son at delivery, and that was a very, very tough time for my family and for me. I think one of the most recent challenges, though, that has really caused me to have to pull from deep inside and demonstrate my resilience is having to take on the position of acting superintendent of one of the largest schools on Long Island during a pandemic. So as a girl, you dream of being in a leadership position because, you know, girls, we like to tell people what to do, right? But you yearn to be there because you know you can really make a difference. And then the time finally comes and it's a global pandemic. And you have to make all of these decisions that impact 7,000 children and their families. Well, that's a time to dig really deep inside and really demonstrate your resilience. And so for me, how I do that is looking at my people resources. So to the girls today, I say to you that being resilient isn't about demonstrating that I'm strong and I can do this by myself. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. Being resilient is being smart enough and bold enough to lean on the people who love you. And so I call it the village. So in my school district, we lean on our village, our civic organizations who support us, our PTA, our Board of Education, and for my scholars, their village, their parents, extended families in the village, their teachers, their guidance counselors, their social workers are all people you can lean on in a time that you're having a huge challenge and at a time when you need to demonstrate that you are definitely resilient.
Thank you so much for sharing. I do know the Uniondale District is very resilient, and you've responded in a way that truly supports your scholars throughout this pandemic and even prior to that. So thank you so much for your work in your community.
Thank you.
Cyrina, I'd like to ask you the same question. I know that you have a very unique personal understanding of resilience, and I'd love to learn how you've experienced that.
Yeah, I first want to say thank you so much to Girls Inc. I'm so honored to be here, and this is such a great organization. So really feel very thankful to be here today. And through life, I've had to be very resilient, almost dying 3 times. And a definition of resilience, there's so many out there, but one that resonates with me is through the company called HeartMath. And they define resilience as a capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And we've all experienced some challenges this year, or in 2020 as well. And about almost 11 years ago, I was in a coma for 18 days, hospital for 2.5 months. I suffered a traumatic brain injury and a spinal cord injury. And they told my family they weren't sure if I was going to survive. And if I did, they would have to take care of me for the rest of my life. And I did not want this to be an outcome. I had to source the strength within. But fortunately, before this accident happened, I had a strong sense of my social environment, my physical, my emotional, and my mental states were all in alignment to be able to help propel me forward. Because I think so many times we've got to nurture the whole person, not just that we're intelligent, but we also have to be emotionally okay and physically okay, and make sure that, you know, we make decisions every day. And are we fostering to strengthen this inside of us? Because we all have strength inside of us. Are we going to nurture it or not? And that's our decision on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, Cyrina. Fostering that strength is so important. And we certainly see that you are the embodiment of that. I also love how you said that you can prepare for resilience. I think none of us were prepared for the year we had last year, but we've taken away a lot of lessons that can help us prepare for our future. So thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Damary, same question. I'd love to learn your unique understanding of resilience and how you've experienced it throughout your life.
Sure. So I want to echo my colleagues on the panel and thank Girls Inc. of Long Island for the opportunity to join the panel. As an alum of Girls Inc. and a former employee, I'm proud of the work that you're all doing with girls on Long Island, as well as with your partnerships. First of all, love Dr. Cyrina's energy and smile, and also Rhonda's story. As a school board director, I understand the challenges that she was talking about and how we need to be resilient. So this is a great conversation and very timely. timely. For me, resilience is about pushing through and overcoming the odds. And similar to both of them, I feel like I've had to be resilient from, my whole life, from being an orphan at age 8 to being raised by grandparents who didn't have formal education, raised in the projects in New York City, and all of the dynamics that we face growing up that we don't realize we have to be resilient to make it through. And sometimes it just happens and we get here. But when we have an opportunity to reflect, back to Rhonda's comment about it takes a village, it is really thinking about who are those resources around you? What are those strategies that you're able to implement and put in place to make it through, even when it feels like it's just happening. It's not just happening. So back to Cyrina's point about preparing and having these considerations in mind to figure out, how am I going to make it through this next year or this next challenge? And so I would say for me, the time when I most had to demonstrate resilience was when I was working full-time at Girls Inc., pursuing my doctorate and having twin babies. And it definitely pushed me outside of my boundaries. However, it served as the opportunity for me to be able to look back and reflect on and say, if I did that, even if I'm tired, even if I'm stressed, even if I'm overwhelmed, I can do anything, right? Because there were several journeys happening at the same time, a first-time mom to twins, and then also, being able to accomplish now serving as one of less than 4% of Latinas in the country with a doctorate. There's work to be done. And so I would say resilience also comes with responsibility, that as you make it through and you push through, you help others do the same and encourage others. And that's what this Girls Inc. space is about.
Thank you so much, Damary. And thank you all for sharing a bit of your personal lives with us. They're such powerful stories, but they're more than that. They're your experience. And I love that you said there's an opportunity on the other side of that resilience to recognize the strength within yourself. So thank you so much for sharing that. And then Loren, from a girl's perspective, we would love to learn your unique understanding of resilience and how you've experienced it in your life.
So thank you, Girls Inc. of Long Island. I'm honored to be here. So resilience in my eyes is having the capacity to bounce back from obstacles and maintain mental toughness in the face of adversity. So for me, enduring racism and discrimination in middle school was a way in which I had to find my own resilience and cope with situations by educating myself on ways I can fight back through advocacy and working towards social justice. But I also believe the pandemic in general presented ways where everyone had to find their own way of being resilient.
Thank you, Loren. I'm so sorry that you had that experience. You shouldn't have had to experience that. But I know from working with you and from seeing you within your groups that you are an advocate for yourself and your peers, and we're so proud of you. And we learn a lot from your resilience as well, so thank you. So my next question is, we've talked about this, right? 2020 was such a challenging year for many, and even stepping into 2021, it's been very difficult. Cyrina, in your opinion, what are some of the greatest obstacles that challenge our ability to be resilient? Oh, I'm so sorry, Cyrina, you're on mute.
I apologize. Sorry about that. I gotta prepare for that. All right. So I feel like 2020 definitely put us all to a test. And I feel like the feeling of disconnection, not just a disconnection with our daily routines, but also with our community, with our friends, our family, our extended family, and also with ourselves, not being able to do what we normally do, and also a sense of loss. And I feel like there was just so much that shifted and changed in a period of over a year. And there was a lot of, definitely we were not guided the way I think that we should have been. And I feel like we all had to be resilient to move through the challenges that we faced. But it was challenging. I think the two challenges were feeling a sense of disconnection and also loss, and not being able to give people hugs. That's a big thing in my life. So.
Thank you. Definitely that sense of loss. I think many of us have been grieving in different ways, whether we experienced loss personally or just a sense of community loss, and that's definitely been a factor. Damary, I have the same question for you. In your opinion, what are some of the greatest obstacles that challenge our ability to be resilient?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll follow Cyrina and talk about the past year because it's something that we all share, right? There are commonalities. And I would say the past year has tested people's self-confidence, the ability to handle stress, and really pushed so many over the edge in terms of emotional and mental well-being. So people that normally bounce back easily maybe didn't do so in the past year, or people that have normally been positive were all of a sudden, not feeling positive. And that is hard because it changes the dynamics at home, it changes the dynamics at work, it changes the dynamics in communities and across the board. There was such a sense of isolation and, as Cyrina said, loneliness and just feeling lost. But I do want to say that it was also an opportunity for individuals to lead. So if you were trying to figure out how you overcome it and saw an opportunity to lead, to guide others, that you could then turn the situation around. And that is the example of resilience too.
Thank you. And I love how you brought up that opportunity again. That really speaks to your experience in leadership, having this obstacle that's so difficult to face, but always seeing the opportunity through it. So I really appreciate your perspective on that. Loren, as a girl attending high school, especially through the pandemic, I know a lot has shifted for you. In your opinion, what have you seen to be the greatest challenges or barriers girls are currently facing?
Yes, so I believe the greatest obstacles are presented when they challenge our morals and we are faced with ethical dilemmas. But with issues that girls are facing, I think with the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I know many women and girls across the country were scared for the future as far as women's rights and issues like abortion and changing regulations with Title IX. But furthermore, I think the media is moving towards inclusiveness with girls as far as positive body image for all shapes and sizes and racial diversity, but I still think we have a long way to go.
Absolutely. You brought up such wonderful points, everything from Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the implications, what that means for our girls, and also, social media. You have to be resilient when you're using that and really have a sense of self. And that's something that we do at Girls Inc. But we understand that that's an issue, even as a grown woman that we face. So thank you for that. Rhonda, in your opinion, what are the greatest challenges or barriers students are currently facing? And what is the Uniondale district doing to foster that sense of grit and resilience in their students?
From our pre-K scholars going to school, first of all, this is a really great question. But for our pre-K scholars going to school for the first time, having to leave their moms for the first time, walking into classrooms where parents can expect that teachers will hug their babies, will make them feel comfortable, not being able to experience that, right, is something that is a challenge if you are a 3.5 or 4-year-old. All the way to our seniors who will not have a prom as their older brothers and sisters have had it, or graduation in the same sense, right? And for us as adults, it might seem as, get over it, show your resilience. But these are things that they have looked forward to for 12 or 13 years. And here's the big moment, and now it's going to be really different for them, right? All the way then to our scholars who can't be in person, who need to have their teacher right there in the classroom with them, guiding them, showing them how to do a concept that they're really digging deep in, right? Having their colleagues right next to them to collaborate with, to engage in conversations with. And so there's this social emotional barrier that's going on with our scholars, this feeling of isolation that they're missing. And so in communities that are marginalized and disenfranchised, there's also the issues of inequities, right? Where there's some communities where there are children who have no access to technology, no access to even Wi-Fi, right? And for parents who can't have a hybrid program because they don't have a nanny who can stay home with the kids on the day there's hybrid and there's no school, right? So those inequities have always existed, and especially here on Long Island, which we know very well is one of the most segregated places in the nation. we've known that these inequities have existed, but they've really, really come to light during this pandemic. But what is Uniondale doing to ensure that our scholars still get the very best in spite of the inequities, in spite of the unfairness, in spite of the disenfranchisement? Well, we've chosen to focus on what we can do for our scholars. So we've distributed over 4,000 iPads, Chromebooks, some form of a technology tool. We've reached out for grants, and last week received $20,000 that will allow us to buy 400 tablets for our scholars. We're focusing on social emotional health and mental wellness, because we're hearing, unfortunately, that there's scholars across the nation who are dealing with this by taking their own lives. And we want our scholars to know we are here for them. We want them to know we are a click away. So teachers who would normally maybe do a 7:30 to 2:30 day, they're all into the evening, 7:30, 9:30, midnight, they're talking with scholars. Weekends, we are showing and demonstrating to our scholars that we are here for them. Anissa, you may know that we lost one of our beloved students, Jojo Wright, to a horrific car accident a couple of weeks ago. And this has caused us to even dig deeper. In moments of sorrow, in moments of grief, we came together to let our scholars know we are here for you. We met with them. We provided counseling for them. We provided healing circles for them. And even now, as our Asian brothers and sisters are facing a national crisis, we are saying to them, we stand in solidarity with you. And tomorrow evening, we'll be having a healing circle. We're inviting all of our community, outside and inside, all of our staff members, all of our scholars to gather together to support our Asian brothers and sisters in the same way I called for that same unification when George Floyd died. And so it's really about always bringing the community together, providing resources, giving our scholars what they need, and letting them know that in Uniondale, we're you strong.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. The Uniondale District is really blowing me away with everything you're doing for your students, from providing that technology to really focusing on that social emotional wellness. I'm so sorry for the loss of your community. I understand that a lot of students were impacted, especially I believe he was a basketball player. And I think the team came back and did really well and honored him throughout the season. So thank you so much.
Winning 6 out of 7 games.
Thank you so much. And you brought up a great point, which was equity. And so this first question, I'll start with Damary. Equity is a determinant in the long-term sustainability of our communities. Through the lens of your professional work with leaders of color and beyond, because I know you've done so much, why is it important for lawmakers to ensure equity across the board, and how can that contribute to a more resilient community?
It's a great question. And I want to piggyback on Rhonda when she started talking about equity and say that I agree that right now it's sexy to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right now, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's using the word equity. I think many still don't understand the difference between equality and equity. But here at Girls Inc., we are striving for equity, and it's been part of the organization's vision for many years, right? Those who are in marginalized communities and populations have known the disparities existed long before. It's our life. It's how we've grown up. And so I agree with what Rhonda was saying. And we've always needed to be resilient in order to succeed. But now it's time that we shift the dynamics because of the social unrest, because it has emerged to the forefront of conversations at all levels and in all sectors. It's time that our lawmakers step up to the plate and put in place policies and legislation that do represent the people, that do ensure that the gender pay gap is closed finally, because as of yesterday, that was Equal Pay Day, we were still showing data that says that women make 82 cents on the dollar for every, compared to every white man. And for women of color, they make even less on the dollar. This is the reality that our girls are still facing today, right? We must also create legislation and policies that honor and treat everyone like human beings, regardless of citizenship status. I was just fighting for a family in my community over the weekend who was going to be evicted because they didn't speak English and they were not US citizens, and therefore the system, was used against them. And so it doesn't matter the language barrier, the citizenship status, we have to have a government that is representative of the people that are here. And really that we are shifting from fighting for fairness to being able to fight on a day-to-day to just become better individuals, so that we don't have those stressors of, I'd like to be treated equal as a woman, I'd like to be treated equal as a person of color, I'd like to be treated equal as a woman of color. But really today, my fight for resiliency is to be a better me, is to be a better representation of myself. And what a world that would be if we had the space, because there was equity and we had the space to say, my resilient fight today is about myself and raising maybe my children to be better people, as opposed to fighting for everyday rights that people should have. And so we need a government that represents and puts in place practices for people. But I do want to charge us as individuals not to just leave that in the hands of government, but to be civically engaged in a way that has partnership opportunity and also pushes legislators and says, I voted for you to be there, and now I want to partner with you to make those things happen, right? Don't just vote and then step away and say, oh, I did my due diligence because I voted. So again, it does take everybody.
Absolutely. And I think that's the difference between surviving and thriving, right? When you're constantly having to fight through racial and gender barriers and inequities, you're just trying to survive. But if we have the ability to thrive and focus on our own personal progress, we build stronger communities. So thank you so much for those gems, because you said so many poignant things right there. Rhonda, I have the same question. I know you touched on equity, but I'd like to know specifically why it's important for lawmakers to ensure equity across the board, and how that contributes to a more resilient education system and overall community.
So let me start by saying I absolutely agree with what Damary said in the beginning of her answer to this question. So if Cyrina is 5 feet 7 inches and Loren is 3 feet 2 inches, and the New York State Department of Education gives them both a step stool that's 3 feet tall, that is equality. They've given them the same height in the step stool, but that's not equity, because Loren still remains shorter than Cyrina, right? Even with the same step stool. So we are calling on the New York State Education Department, and we're calling on our lawmakers. In fact, we are demanding that the New York State Education Department begins to look at districts at where they begin. So if you give me $5 million and give another district that's already 10 steps ahead, the same $5 million, you've not done anything for me. And in many cases, Anissa, that doesn't even happen. There's still disenfranchised communities that are still fighting for what they need to have to educate their scholars, right? So in Uniondale, we have right now about $10 million in grants. You look at other communities, they don't write that much in grants. They don't need to. They have people who support them. They have money that comes from founders and elsewhere. We have to go out there, and we don't mind, right, going out there and digging for the extra. But what we want is our equal share to make sure that every scholar in Uniondale has a technology tool that they can take home and have as their own, as many districts have had for a very long time. We want to create spaces where when our scholars go into the media center, it's not the old-fashioned library, they're looking for books, right? That they have access to the research tools that they need, right? We just opened an EMT program here because our board president and I worked so hard to reach out to the fire department to bring that in. But in some communities, these are things that they just naturally have. And so we just really feel that it's important that the New York State Department goes back from scratch, that they look at communities where they are, and then they begin to provide the resources to make it equitable, and not necessarily lay back and say, well, it's equal. I gave them all the same amount of money. And they might argue that certain communities may get Title I monies and those kinds of things, but they're so stringent in how they can be used. And school districts don't have the authority to go outside of that and say, okay, let's use it for this because we need it, because there's all the restrictions there. So demonstrate equity. Put your money where your mouth is. Stop saying you're doing this and actually really do it.
Absolutely. And you brought up a few great points. I love the analogy you began with because it really gave us a clearer picture of equity versus equality, especially when you're starting behind, right? We hear that so many times. If you start the race behind and your community is under-resourced to begin with, getting the same amount of money is not necessarily going to help you be where you need to be. And you brought up access. Access is such an important factor to resilience and building our communities. So thank you both for such insightful points. I'm going to go back to Damary with this one. In your work with leaders of color, you are a tireless advocate for the representation of leaders of color and access to quality education. What are some tools and resources that you utilize to maintain resilience and a work-life balance?
That work-life balance piece is a session of its own, right? I always say I don't believe in balance. To me, every day is a juggle, especially as a woman of color. And Dr. McInnis referred to this earlier when she talked about the many roles we play. And so, you know, we may be a partner or a spouse, a mother, an employee, and have all of these different hats that we wear and be really spread thin. And we do it because we know that there is a responsibility. There's a responsibility to speak up. We have something to say, and for a long time did not have an opportunity to speak up. And when these opportunities present themselves, we have a hard time saying no. And so a couple of the things that we have to do are to always continue to invest in ourselves, right? Whether it's participating in webinars, whether it's pursuing your higher education, accessing resources and information. And I had put in the chat box earlier when Dr. McInnis was talking, she said, girls need space. And I will say, you know, I'll take that as well and say that women need space as well. And this is a day-to-day. I'm not saying that I have arrived. Every day I have to be mindful and remind myself that it is a juggle, that we do have to take time. You know, we use the term self-care a lot, but what does that really mean to you? You know, it may be soaking in a bath to decompress. It may be talking with a girlfriend or somebody who will just listen to you vent. And so just being mindful of what your needs are as individuals to be able to do what you do better. And then in terms of the leadership piece, the way that we invest in our leaders of color in our organization is by breaking up the training program in categories that help them build themselves. So first, leadership development, talking about the imposter syndrome, public speaking, the strength finder to help people really ground themselves in terms of what they're able to contribute and how to hone those skills. And then moving into advocacy and understanding some of the critical issues that we're talking about this morning, and how can you elevate your voice to be a bigger voice for others? And then moving into a campaigning component around how do you use all of that to either run for office, run somebody's campaign who's running for office, or start a nonprofit or civic organization to be able to give a voice to others.
Wow, that is such important work. I also love how honest you are. It is a juggling act, right? Anyone who says they have it down probably doesn't have it down, especially now, right? Especially when our work and our life was, you know, they're kind of in the same room for a lot of us still. So thank you for your honesty, but that self-prioritization is so important, and that professional growth as well. And I have a similar question for you, Loren. What are some tools and resources that you utilize to develop and maintain your resilience?
So to help me maintain resilience, I make sure to keep myself in the loop with pressing issues America and the world are facing. In school, I'm the president of Key Club, which is an international organization based on community service. I signed up for advocacy programs like with the American Civil Liberties Union. And over the summer, I actually had the opportunity to do phone banking for the first time regarding states voting on a law that will allow free access to COVID-19 testing, regardless of immigration status. But most importantly, I rely on music and meditation to avoid activism burnout and really keep my mental health a priority.
You brought up such an important point. Burnout is real. It definitely happens. And it's so easy to happen now when that school and work and life balance is just kind of all thrown off. But I know that you are always doing something so amazing. You're involved in so many activities and initiatives within your school and your community and Girls Inc. And I love that you brought in that music and meditation to kind of balance that out sometimes. So we're beyond impressed with what you continue to do. Rhonda, I have the same question for you. What are some tools and resources that you utilize to develop and maintain your personal resilience?
So one thing that is foundational to who I am is that I strongly believe in the power of prayer. When I'm feeling lost, when I'm feeling afraid, when I'm feeling concerned, when I feel like I have to make a huge decision that impacts my 7,000 scholars, I go in prayer. And so that calms me, that gives me a sense of peace. And you know, helps to foster my resilience. But of course, outside of that, you know, you have to pray and then go to action, right? And so I go to action. I call on my people resources. I call on my civic organizations like Nostrum Gardens, who worked so hard to get 250 vaccines for our residents 65 years old and above. That's huge. We wouldn't have gotten that if we did not reach out to our civic organization. They did not reach back out to us, and they worked so hard to do that. So people, resources like our colleges nearby, how can you partner with us to help our scholars, you know, have access to college courses? So we have our super courses, we have our AP courses that's happening, we have our medical pipeline program with Hofstra and our medical pipeline program with Winthrop. And of course, as I spoke before, the village becomes that important place. My administrators, my principals and directors who work so hard, I reach out to them. What can we do better? What can we do differently? What are we not doing? Let's look at the data. Let's unpack the data, see where the gaps are. And then what do we do? Island Harvest, we have become a partner for us because in our community, there are people who lost their jobs and did not have a big bank account to lean back on. And so we're able to provide food. And last night in one of our meetings, we learned that we have to take another look at what kind of food we're getting, but we are partnering with organizations that can give families boxes of food. Next week, we're not here. And tomorrow we'll be giving them boxes of food if they choose to come to get it, so that next week when we're not here, and that's okay. And so how do we do that? By reaching out to our partners and saying, listen, here's a need. Can you give us some money to buy MiFis, right? So that our scholars can get Wi-Fi and not have to go and sit outside the library or across the street to be able to connect to the internet. These are things that families just wake up in the morning and they have access to. And so how can you help us? Even if it's not a check made out to the school district, can you purchase these things and drop them off for us? And so we're not ashamed to reach out and say, we need some help. And how can you help our scholars?
I love that. People resources and community resources are key to being resilient. And it teaches us the lesson that it's okay to ask for help, right? Resilience doesn't have to be just our own linear personal journey, but bringing in a network of people to help support us. And I think you were a wonderful example of that. Cyrina, what are some tools and resources that you utilize to develop and maintain your resilience?
Well, I would say that I'm very conscious about being present in my day because you never know what tomorrow is going to hold for you. And I integrate different things into my day. Every day I meditate. That brings me more peace and calm and focus. And I have a gratitude journal because I want to be thankful for all the blessings I have in my life. And I also try to exercise and get out there and start moving my body a little bit. But the biggest thing I think for me is to make sure that I check in with myself every once in a while and know what soundtrack I'm playing in my mind. Because so many times we as humans do not play the most empowering soundtrack. And so we need to check in with ourselves sometimes and say, is this helping me be my best or is this harming me? And I want to encourage each of the girls with Girls Inc. to know the soundtrack. I am strong. I am smart. I am bold. Because when hard times come, because unfortunately they're going to, I want you to remember that truth, because there are going to be times when you're challenged, but remember the truth that you are here for a reason and that you have all those qualities. Wow.
I love the gratitude journal, and I love what you mentioned about soundtrack playing in your head. That's so important, and that self-check-in. And I have another follow-up question for you. I understand you have this unique experience incorporating science-based and motivational tools through Catch Happiness. So what would you say are some things that we can bring into our day, every day, to just bring more happiness?
Okay, well, I first want to say that, being a pharmacist, I want to encourage a daily dose of happiness, and DOSE is an acronym. The D stands for dopamine, the O for oxytocin, the S for serotonin, and E for endorphins, because these are the chemicals that are produced when we're happy, which have positive physiological effects. And I want to encourage people, you've got to find out what works for you. But scientifically, we know that one, having a gratitude journal is something that can be, bring more happiness. It doesn't need to be something huge. It could be, I had a nice conversation today, or I had a good cup of coffee, or it was a beautiful day out. Noticing the good, because we all have good and bad in our days. But, they say where our attention goes, energy flows. So what do we want to pay attention to? Do we want to pay attention to the good or the bad in our lives? And so that's one thing. Another thing is I encourage people to smile, because when we smile, we produce, well, one, it's contagious. And this is something that I would like to catch and spread. And two, it is also something that helps produce chemicals in our bodies to bring more happiness in our day. And there's some days where you wake up and you don't feel like smiling, but if you force that smile, your brain doesn't know the difference. So, and plus they say when you smile, it makes you more approachable. So I think that that's a good thing to bring into your day. And also being kind. It's fascinating because we now know through science that when you are kind, you produce the chemical called oxytocin, or the hormone. It's also referred to as the cuddle hormone or the love hormone. And this hormone can help you feel happier as well. So when we're kind and we do acts of kindness, this helps to bring more happiness to your day as well. I mean, there's many different things out there, and you've got to kind of dive in and see what works for you, because we're all different. But also exercise and many different things like that can help bring more happiness to your day.
You brought up so many amazing points there. And when you talk, I just start smiling naturally. So it's funny, I just feel happy when I'm hearing you talk and I see you smile. But I love that dose of happiness and being kind to one another. That is such an important thing to contribute to our own happiness. So thank you so much for sharing that. I see the chat started blowing up there. A lot of people are receptive to a lot of what you shared.
Oh, thanks, Anissa.
No problem. So I have a question for Loren now. You have been a Girls Inc. girl since your sophomore year. You're in the top 10 of your class. You have an impressive resume of extracurricular activities and community service. And you just got accepted to so many schools like Spelman and Cornell. Congratulations. How has participating in Girls Inc. contributed to your ability to not only get through this past year, but to thrive?
So Girls Inc. has been an amazing outlet for me to unwind, hone in on my emotions, reflect on my week, like things I did that were strong, smart, or bold. It is a safe space that I can rely on to brighten my day, or if I need to vent or ask for advice. I also learn how to navigate through social and gender barriers, and I like meeting new people and learning how to empower other girls.
Thank you so much, Loren. I remember meeting you in your sophomore year when Girls Inc. just started at Westbury. And you've always been such an active participant. Even when you had so many things going on, you would stop in and say, hey, I can't make it today, but I just wanted to say hi. And we're so appreciative of the value that you add to the group every week. So thank you for being a Girls Inc. girl and being part of our family. So we have one more question for all of the panelists as we start to wrap up. So in honor of Women's History Month, I think it'd be wonderful if each of you leaves us with a quote or thought by a woman who embodies resilience and who has inspired you in your journey. And we'll begin with Rhonda here.
Thank you. And as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you again to Girls Inc. for having me on this morning. A lot of these things are humbling experiences for me because, this is a girl who was born in Barbados and grew up without wealth, and to be sitting on a panel like this, impacting amazing, brilliant young women like Loren and others who are listening. This is quite an opportunity for me. So thank you. And thank you to Renee, who has been a friend to the Uniondale School District for many, many, many years. Anissa, I'm really glad that you added in a thought, because I'm sitting here saying I'm going to have to start by apologizing that I didn't go the road of the quote, right? I kind of like broke free and said, I'm not going for a quote. This is what I'm going for. So this is for you, Loren, and all the amazing girls of Girls Inc. and all of my scholars. I want to leave you with this. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head, and lowered eyes? shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. And that is from the great Maya Angelou. I pay her homage today, and I hope that you will all remember that you are smart, you're bold, you're resilient, and definitely you will always rise.
Thank you so much for contributing that. Still I rise. I see someone said they got goosebumps. I did as well. Cyrina, did you have a quote or a thought that you would like to leave us with?
Yeah, I was so honored to meet Dr. Edith Eger, and she is such an illustration of what resilience is. And at the age of 16, she was taken to Auschwitz and had a horrific experience. And she's a Holocaust survivor and an amazing woman. And she wrote a book. I want to share with you guys, The Choice, Embrace the Possible. And what I think it's true is, well, I know is true, that we all have a strength inside of us. And her quote is, "We do not know where we're going. We do not know what is going to happen, but no one can take away from you what you have put into your own mind." So I want to share this because I want to foster, like I like to share a secret code that I share, P cubed, and that means you have purpose, passion, and endless possibilities. And to foster that and to allow yourself to know that you have a gift to share with our world, and your thoughts contribute to what the outcome will be in your day. So be able to foster positive thoughts in your life.
Thank you so much, Cyrina, for sharing the quote, and then also P cubed. I'm going to keep that with me, definitely.
Thank you.
Maury, did you have a quote or a thought from a woman who embodies resilience that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, well, I also want to say thank you again for the opportunity. You know, what a great way to start my day. And today is a long day for me because we have a leadership session this evening till 10 p.m. So my cup is full. And I just want to thank the organization and my fellow panelists. For me, and Loren brought her up in the beginning, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a woman who embodies all the things that I strive to be, resilient included. And so I've spent, especially this month, as you said, during Women's History, quoting her, just because she was such a fearless advocate for all of us and where we are today. And there's still more work to do. So one of my favorite quotes by her is really simple, but it's a call to action. And it's the one where she said that you should speak even if your voice shakes. And, you know, I have to remember that as the first Hispanic elected to the East Stroudsburg Area School District School Board, my voice often shakes when I speak up because I've been told that, you know, I speak out of turn or I'm unprofessional or my tone won't be tolerated. And so I just want to pass that along to the women and the girls that are with us today or that may watch this later. It's okay if your voice shakes, if your heart is pounding, if you're sweating a little bit, if you're nervous, if you stumble on your words, but just speak anyway. And for us, you know, that'll be how we become more resilient and also just ensure that our girls know that they are strong, smart, and bold. So speak even if your voice shakes.
Absolutely love it. And I want to thank you for continuing to speak even when your voice shakes, because you are a power to be reckoned with, and we're all inspired by you and the work you continue to do in your community. And then last but not least, Loren, did you have a quote or a thought that you'd like to share by a woman who embodies resilience?
Yes, so I love how Miss Rhonda Taylor mentioned Maya Angelou, because my quote is actually by her. So the quote is, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it."
Wow, I got chills with that one. Definitely thinking about situations that we've been in and making sure that we rise up to the occasion. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love how you both thought of Maya Angelou, because there's so much to be learned from her. Wow, this has just been such an inspiring event. We have time for a few questions. So I'm going to let the chat open up and I'm going to monitor it. If anyone has any questions or thoughts that we'd like to share with our panelists for the next few minutes, please feel free to submit something now. In the meantime, I'll read some of these comments. Powerful words. Lift every voice. Loren is amazing. Yes, Loren is amazing. Do we have any questions for any of our panelists? Feel free to drop it right into the chat. We have a thank you to Ms. Taylor for all you do for the community. Dose of happiness. I'll give just a few more seconds to see if anyone has any additional questions. We have another, you are all amazing and inspiring. Thank you so much. Oh, we have a question here from Carol. What has been the best part of your journey? And I'll leave it open to whoever would like to share first.
The best part of my journey is being a servant leader, being able to serve a community, to come in every day knowing exactly what my role is. It's not acting superintendent. It's not assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. It's servant worker. It's meeting the needs of the people you serve, whether it's your scholars, whether it's your community, your teachers, your parents. And so the best part is to be able to do that at this time, and to be able to make decisions that's making a huge difference, I hope, in the trajectory of the lives of my scholars and in essence, the lives of their community as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say I agree with that. One of my favorite preachers, the Bishop T.D. Jakes, says that it was good that I was afflicted, and I didn't always understand that, right? But the journey, I think Rhonda talked about growing up in Barbados, and so the journey itself, having to overcome the obstacles, having to experience the obstacles first, and then being able to overcome them has put me in a position to be able to empower others, influence others, be a voice for others, as I see my colleagues on the panel, you all at Girls Inc. of Long Island, and across the board, those that are joining us today. And so I think the best part of the journey is being able to take what you experienced, what you overcame, how you overcame it, and translate that to helping others, empowering others, and having an influence and making a positive difference at any level. That could be at home, that could be in your local church community, that could be in your local educational community, or broadly. We don't all have to be CEOs in the corporate sector. Everybody has a role to play.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Damary, because the thing is, we all have different challenges, but if we can be transparent and share that, yes, I've had this happen in my life and I've had this struggle, it can help people rise above and to be their best, to know that, yes, this is not easy, but you can do this. And I think many times if we don't share and we're vulnerable and share what our challenges are, then we're not able to touch as many people and to give them the strength that they need to move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Loren, did you have anything you want to share as far as what has been the best part of your journey thus far?
So I think my journey is just beginning. But like currently, I'm just happy to be surrounded by a community that I can rely on and I can help empower other people. Especially Girls Inc. has been great in helping fostering that resilience in me. So yeah.
I love that your journey is just beginning. We had another question that I was asking specifically if there were any Girls Inc. programs or things that you learned that had the most impact for you.
So Girls Inc., there's been so much. Again, I started in 10th grade. So when I first went to the program, there was just a lot of things that we learned, like with social media and having positive images. And I especially liked making a journal. Like we put positive quotes on it and stickers and nice stuff that we can just reflect on our days and maintain like happiness. We've also done some we've done like some, like, I guess karate, but like self-defense thing over the summer. So that was pretty cool. And I also know that Girls Inc. has some advocacy programs as well.
Thank you so much. We have another question here that's to, I believe, all the panelists. We talked about sharing our stories before and our struggles. So the question was, when you share these stories with others, How do you change people's perspectives so they show empathy and not sympathy?
Wanda had me ready to go in on the chat box, and I was like, oh, I'll wait my turn. But, sympathy is the savior mentality, and we don't have time for the savior mentality, not in the nonprofit sector, not in the leadership development space, not in the conversation around equity. And so being sure that as you talk about your journey, as you empower people, you help them understand what their power is. And so just hearing Loren speak, everybody has been motivated and inspired today. That's the way we do it, right? That's how it's done at Girls Inc. That's the way we do it. We empower people and help them see their own strength. I talked earlier about the strength finder and leadership development. And so everything, at least for me, everything that I do is always from a leadership development place first. So if you want people to run for office, you want people to be advocates, you want people to pursue any particular thing, you have to help develop them as leaders and be able to share your journey and your story and say, this was my experience. I think Dr. Cyrina said, we all face different challenges. It's important to say that your journey is not going to be like mine necessarily. There might be some things along the way you can learn from, take that and run with it, but certainly no sympathy. So thanks for bringing that up, Wanda.
That's a great point, Damary. And people around me know that. I start by saying that. My kids do not need your sympathy. Empathize with them because they're having it a lot harder than some others. Because when you sympathize with someone, you feel sorry for them. And when you feel sorry for someone, you lower the bar for them. You make the work a little bit easier. You tell them, you can't possibly do this. This is too challenging. So do this. So we don't want, I'm sorry for you. We want, I empathize that you have to work in the 10th grade to help support your family and take all of these AP courses. So I may give you a little more extra time to turn in your assignment, but the bar always remains up here because when I empathize with you, I know you can do it. When I sympathize with you, I have doubts about whether or not you can do this. And I feel so sorry for you that I'll just let you pass. Our scholars, we're not looking for a pass. So don't feel sorry, don't sympathize with us. Empathize with us and understand your privilege as opposed to mine.
I absolutely love what you said. And that's why at Girls Inc., we know our girls come to us already strong, smart, and bold. We're not making them strong, smart, bold. They come to us with that capacity ready. They come to us with that potential ready. And we help guide them on their journey, but their journey is their own. So we believe our girls are inherently powerful. So I love what you just said about that. Did anyone on the panel have any other thoughts about the sympathy versus empathy?
Yeah, Rhonda, I loved what you said. And I really feel as if we're able to empathize with people, we can see the perspective and we can look at different people's situations and come together as a community to help elevate everyone, not just one group, everyone. And like you said, it's a village, Rhonda. And I feel like if we feel sorry or sympathize for people, like you said, we're limiting them, and we need to foster that strength inside so that we can all rise together.
Thank you so much, Cyrina. I love how you ended that, all rise together. We have one more question in the chat, and I think our time will then come to an end. From Autumn Storm, so adapting over time has been a huge strength to women throughout history in the face of adversity. Has adapting been a choice or a forced requirement in your life? Do you feel this is something the ability to adapt is ingrained or learned/inspired?
I would say inspired. There have been things in my life that I've had to adapt to. Having a spinal cord injury, not being able to do certain things, that you do need to make adaptations in your life. But that doesn't limit you. That doesn't mean you can't do things. That means that, yes, okay, I might have to do it a little differently, but I can move forward and be my best self. And I feel like many times that if there's not that strength inside, we don't share that with ourselves and the community. But I feel like, yes, adaptations need to happen at times. And it can be something that you have to learn and day by day and become better at it. But some people just have it innately in them, but know that you can make it through whatever challenges that you have in life.
I love that. And I'll piggyback and say that this reminded me of the question of whether leaders are born or made, which somebody just asked me in a YouTube interview a couple of days ago. And so my belief is that there are certain individuals that are born with innate qualities that just propel them from childhood to be in leadership positions, to, be at the forefront, to be able to inspire others. And there are other individuals who have to work at it. But I think there can be both. I don't think there's one way to approach anything in life. And so, Dr. Cyrina, I love your comments and, certainly agree with you. And I think we can always work to build our knowledge, to fine tune our skills, and to be a better version of ourselves. So we should always be open to adapting. I'm not going to say that's easy. And if my husband was next to me, he would say, I'm a work in progress, especially when it comes to injustice and seeing the changes that need to be made and that should be coming along easier than they are because of people's hesitancy and they're in positions of power and I'm not. That really pushes me over the edge. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, I would jump in first by saying Autumn Storm. What a powerful name, first of all. And your name speaks of it, right? So in the autumn, the leaves are falling, it's beautiful, it's a little bit common, but then the storm is coming at some point. You can't stay in the autumn mentality when you're going through a storm. You have to adapt to the storm and find new ways, be a chameleon and find new ways to make it through that storm. Sometimes you're inspired by people in your lives who've gone through challenges and made it out of the storm. But there are times when you just have to learn that if I lay here in this storm, I'm going to be swallowed up by the waves. So I have to adapt myself and I have to come out of it. That was a beautiful question.
Thank you so much for all of your answers, and thank you for the questions. The event is now nearing its end, and at this time, we're going to wrap up and hear closing remarks from our wonderful Executive Director, Renee. But first, let's give a virtual round of applause to our fantastic, inspiring panelists. We thank you so much for sharing the space with us this morning. I know that I personally gained so much and truly feel inspired by this conversation. Damary, Rhonda, Cyrina, and Loren, thank you so much for joining us in this really important discussion. Give some love in the chat for amazing panelists. And at this time, I turn it back over to Renee.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I hope you can all hear me. Wonderful. I am so excited about this conversation. This was such a powerful discussion. This was so very important. I love the robust and rich dialogue and comments going on in our comment section. I hope that you were all as inspired as I am. I made a couple of notes and I just want to touch on these things before we close out. Dr. McInnis, when she said girls need space, they absolutely do, and they do now more than ever. Rhonda, equity versus equality. What a poignant way to show what that actually looks like. Equitable school funding, that is so very important. And for many of you, you may or may not know that, we have a wonderful relationship with Girls Inc. with the Uniondale School District. And we work with so many schools, districts just like them who are navigating the same challenges as Uniondale. And we must continue to support our girls through all of this. Challenges with technology, challenges with equity. And this is why we're here. We serve all girls, but we especially want to make sure that we're able to target those girls who are challenged by issues of equity so that we can help them level the playing field. We can help them rise with the tide with everybody else, and to make sure that all of our girls remain strong, smart, and bold, that they understand and they know their inherent strengths so that they will not be limited by what the world is trying to do, that they have the strength, the ability, the tools, the techniques, the skills, the language, and everything they need to push past every obstacle that's possible. We are all about resilience and grit. So that was really inspiring. Cyrina, source your strength within. That was powerful. That was completely powerful. And that's what we have to do. That's what resilience is all about. Loren, oh my God, I am so very proud of you. You all know that I can talk, but when I hear you speak every single time, it's like I'm left with no words. I am so very proud of you. And you are the epitome of what a Girls Inc. girl is, and the power of what a Girls Inc. girl can be. I'm so proud of you. And when you said fostering resilience, just, everything that you do, you are an amazing example to all of our girls and to all of our women. I look to you and I hear what comes out of your voice and I'm inspired. A daily dose of happiness. Cyrina, I love that. I absolutely love that. And we need to do that. Smile more. And I would encourage you not just smile, but laugh. Ha, 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 ha. Big laughter. It has medical benefits. Did you know that? Reduces stress. It releases, okay, and I'm not a medical professional, so I may say this word wrong, but it releases neuropeptides, reduces stress, relaxes the muscles. So let's smile and let's laugh as much as we possibly can. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for this amazing discussion and how important it is to remind ourselves to be resilient in such trying times and to lay a foundation of what resilience looks like for our girls, so that as they're being very resilient, that they're reminded of what it looks like, so that they have something to use, a tool to use when it's time for them to dig deep and be able to move forward and still rise, just like the wonderful Maya Angelou said. So to Rhonda and Damary and Cyrina and Loren, we humbly thank you from the bottom of our hearts as we come to a close. How awesome was that? Oh my God, I hope you were as inspired as I was, and by our esteemed speakers. And I hope that you're moved to take action. You could have been anywhere this morning, but you chose to be here with us. And for that, we are eternally grateful. As you heard, so much work has been done to empower girls and women to stand up for justice and to blaze trails. Kudos for the progress. However, there's still so much more work to be done. And this is why we're here. These are interesting times. Let's not forget that our girls are experiencing these times as well. It's impacting their social, emotional, and mental well-being. And it is our duty to respond to this. The trauma of isolation changes beyond their control, and the disruption of their sense of normal has been very difficult to navigate. And while we celebrate their resilience, we recognize that there's still work to be done to support their emotional, mental, and physical wellness, as well as their lives overall. We're doing all we can to provide our girls with the support now, as well as including things that we've never done at Girls Inc., such as tutoring, to make sure that they have what they need and that they can still excel in a virtual environment, which has been very tough on some of them. And we're preparing for the support that they'll need once we get through this pandemic with trauma-informed training. Our charge here at Girls Inc. is to continue to stand up for our girls while delivering essential programs that equip them with the tools they need to truly take their places in society and claim their success. It now also includes helping them navigate the many negative effects of the pandemic currently, and to help them prepare for what's to come as a result of what's going to happen when we get through this. How much will they be carrying when we get through this? To do that, we need your continued help. With a one-time donation today, or by joining our monthly circle of givers with a monthly donation, we can continue to bridge learning and skills gaps, forge new opportunity, give girls the support that they need, and serve more girls than ever before. We must continue to inspire our girls here on Long Island to be stronger, smarter, and bolder than ever before. To donate now, I ask that you visit girlsincli.org, click on the donate button, and choose to make your one-time donation or join us and help us sustain our mission and join our circle of champions with a monthly recurring gift. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that you were inspired. Don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. We're all over the social spectrum, so join us, see what we're doing, celebrate with us, with the girls, find out what's going on. And once again, we thank you for having an amazing, for just being with us today. And we hope that you have an amazing and resilient day. Thank you, everyone. Go out and be resilient, strong, smart, and bold. We appreciate your time with us this morning.